Hey guys, it's Tom Box. Welcome back, Oscar. Well, actually, he is doing this video with me about 33,000 or like I don't know how many miles away.
A lot of miles, like 6,000 kilometers or something away.
You're still doing more videos than Kenny. Anyways, so today we have a really awesome subject. This is kind of a new segment I'm trying out, a duel style interview. And the question and the topic of the day is the current major issues with the new time rule. Now, you can talk about OCG land stuff, how things are different over there, but as a quick review of the rules, there's basically two tiers depending on the tournament that you're playing. If you're playing tier 1, which is locals or top cut, there's no such thing as a draw. So when time is called, at the end of the current phase, that should be the end of the game, and whoever that has a higher life point wins. However, if you guys both have the same amount of life points, well, you just keep going until first blood. Whoever that actually has more life points at the end of their current phase will basically win that game. And if it's one game apiece for each player, well, then you'll go into a third game with special rules, because there's no such thing as a draw in top cut, or technically locals as well. So the special rules would be 4 turns, random on who goes first, no siding unless you guys were already in the middle of siding, say you both were one game apiece. And then again, same rules, 4 turns, and basically whoever that wins on the higher life point at the end of the 4 turns is the winner. However, in tier 2 Swiss, when time is called, at the end of the phase, that match is over. If you guys are both one game apiece, you get a draw. And I think one of the big things that we know right now is from the recent big events, after like the first round, 90 plus draws. I think it's like over 100 draws after the first round. So that's the basic summary of the rules. You guys can check out the link yourself. So the goal of this whole new rule thing is to basically end the match quicker. But like, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, the goal from Konami, obviously, as you said, is to end the game faster. And I think they actually, if you're looking within the bubble of just that, then they've actually accomplished that. In the previous YCS in New Jersey, some of my sources have told me that the rounds have definitely been way faster, and there's no longer, crazy, insane rounds of like 15 minutes extra time. And the rounds are generally 15 to 30 minutes faster. And within 8 minutes of end of match procedures, all but 5 or 10 matches were concluded. So with these new time trade-offs, lengthwise, the matches have definitely been gone down, but as you said, way more draws. And I think a huge con of this new change is a reduction in player satisfaction. Instead of letting games go and play out naturally, there's an increase in slow play, increase in DQs, and a change in the meta. I think Trickster's huge in the TCG now, way bigger than I think they should be.
Like the amount of burning that you're actually throwing out. Like, I've heard cases where just people, oh, I've got about 15 seconds left in time. Summon Lycris, pass turn, go ahead. And then the guy like draws for turn, burns for 200. And then it's like, time of the round! It's now your standby phase, end of match. Oh
yeah, they could just lose in time. Like, they could even lose in the draw phase. It's insane. I had a friend who lost in the time. Exactly. The guy normal summoned Lycris, passed. He drew for turn. He's like, there's like 10 seconds left. He's like, draw. He's like, standby. He's like, oh no, wait. I'm thinking in draw phase. And he's like, and it times him out for like 8 seconds. He's like, oh, you lose. Congratulations, you just lost in the draw phase, right?
Exactly.
That's insane. Yeah.
Like, there's no repercussion. I feel like this could have been handled better.
There are a lot of DQs, and I think the last, like this YCS New Jersey, there was like almost 100 DQs, and I heard stories of players actually just, getting into fights with other players because of obvious slow play, like stuff like that. Like, and obviously, Trickster's super favored for, playing into time, and all the Trickster players are, I'm not saying all of them are slow playing or whatever, but it's something you do have to be very careful about when you play a Trickster players, to keep an eye on the clock and make sure they don't slow play in any scenario. But again, that's very difficult to do and very difficult to apply, and it applies a lot of pressure to the judges. And I think another con of this change is that it pushes a lot of onus onto players and judges to enforce slow play. And slow play is something that is, it's very contextual. It's not written down. It's not black and white, and it's very difficult to enforce.
Yeah, it's like, what if you're playing a Goki deck and you just try to go off in your combo? It takes forever to finish that combo. I mean, because it branches out so wide and then it kind of narrows down later on in the combo. But overall, unless players, I think, need to know their stuff if they're going to go into a big event. Because if they can't control the timing of their own plays, and if they're spending more time just shuffling their hand and thinking about their play, they are not, well, they're not doing their job. They're not playing to their capacity, max capacity. Kind of wish there was a bit of a chess clock now.
Yeah, I think with these new changes, if you are a combo player or if you're playing pure Sky Striker, what's very important is for you to have a sufficient amount of deck proficiency. You need to be able to make your plays at a large event very quickly so that if your opponent is not as well versed in their deck, you can give them more time to do their play so that you don't go into time because you're not favored in time. And I believe back in 2016 at my first Snats, I was playing a side event, and one of the judges told me something that really changed my perspective on the game, and I think really applies now, is that I played a Rhoda and a Rhoda card, so it was a Monarch Rhoda card, and then I was looking through my deck, and I shuffled through my deck to look for a card, and the judge stopped me. He said, "I'm giving you a warning for slow play." I'm like, "Why? This is a complex game state. I'm looking through my deck normally. I'm trying to find an answer. Like, this is normal, right?" He's like, "No. The moment you play a search card, you as a player should know exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're just slow playing, and that's why I'm giving you a slow play warning." And I think that really plays into here. If you're a Goki player, you make sure that you are practicing your combo, and the moment the guy has no hand traps or whatever, or if he has no hand, he has no back row, and he just has like a Shizuku on the board, you have to be able to do the combo without stopping at all. Like, that's just it, right? You can't think about it or whatever. And I think that's really applicable now to this, especially with these new time changes.
It is going to be pretty rough, especially with WCQ coming up. I feel like certain decks are actually very unfavored, especially grindy decks that aren't exactly there to push for OTKs. I mean, if they grind out a match for 30 minutes, your next two rounds, only has about 10 minutes to play. And you know that can't finish. Like, does that... I think that actually adds into their perspective of how they're going to play their next game. Because if they lost the first game and it already grinded out that long, it's most likely they're going to force the draw.
Yeah, and another thing is, as a player, if you want to improve, then it's really important for you to recognize game states that you will lose in. Not saying that you don't have a chance of winning in, but sometimes scooping early is an option here, and that's what happens in some tournaments I play over here because combo is it's very preferred by players in the OCG, and a lot of them like to play combo decks. And once they get the combo starting, I usually, if the game state it means I can't win, I'll usually just scoop right away, and I don't let them finish the combo or try to make a mistake because it's just going to take too long.
Like, this actually kind of puts one specific situation in mind right now, is that you have like your combo pieces in your hand, and then you're waiting for your opponent to finish their combo. You're not sure if you can break their board, but if you top deck the right card, you can break their board. But then that also contributes to the amount of time that you have to let them finish their combo, and that's a bit of a risk now. And that wasn't a big of a risk as it was before, as it is now. And that is actually really annoying to me. It's like, oh, it's just, if I can get that sphere mode, the game is over. I can sphere mode them, and then I can drop my entire board, and then they die because they overcommitted. But now, even going for that commitment, there is just so much on the line now.
Yeah, I think combo decks actually, suffer a little bit of a nerf of these time changes because in previous rules, you had the 5-turn rule. If you're a combo deck, you always had at least 2 or 3 turns to do your combo and to get the payoff in the next turn to win, right? But now with these changes, you could do the whole combo, and then next turn the guy just normal summons Lycris, pass, and then you lose in draw phase, right? Like, it's stuff like that makes this makes these changes. I don't think they were very well implemented, and they're not very well thought out. I like the direction that Konami has taken from, because some of the rounds were absolutely insane. I remember when I was playing London Nationals or UK Nationals, there was a round that went to 1 hour overtime, and that was absolutely absurd. Yeah. So I definitely agree with Konami. They should be making changes to reduce the times in these games, not only for players' sake or for the judges' sake, and even for tournament organizers' sake, but event venues sometimes they close before the events are done, and that's a huge problem in terms of money and players being able to play in the proper time. I remember during last nats, because it ended so late that sometimes players were playing in the dark. Like that's how bad it was, right? So this is a very good direction by Konami, but I believe that there needs to be some revisions, and player satisfaction has to be put at a higher priority than time efficiency.
So we've covered the grounds of player proficiency with their own decks, because that needs to be at a much higher level now compared to before. You can't just think out your combo on the spot anymore. Thing is, people are not satisfied with it because there are cheesy ways to win now, especially if you're playing a burn deck. And, well, what about how would you rush someone to play? If you're like, they're going at the time, you feel like they're slow playing, you need to push them forward. What is your take on rushing someone in?
I think
Like, not like in a rule sharky way, but more like, okay, you know what? He's done this like multiple times already. Why is he taking so long this time? What's going on? Like,
I
how
think what's really important to realize is to first off in the context of which deck your opponent's playing. So if they're playing tricksters, it's obviously a huge portion of this, and especially relevant. If they're playing combo decks, then sometimes it's relevant, depending on how long they take a combo. Some combo players will want to do a combo for a really long time, get that game one win in, and then game two they can take their time and do whatever, right? But yeah, it really depends on the deck they're playing for you to be how stringent you have to be. You have to look out for players who are thinking unnecessarily. They're not doing anything, so they're in their main phase one. They haven't done anything to begin with, right? Their combo has to start somewhere, and it's usually a very normal combo starter of what they have to do. Then you have to push them. You have to ask them to please hurry up, please play a card, or I will call judge. And if they don't, then you have to call a judge, or else because if you call a judge, the first thing they're going to say is, okay, well, I mean, I can't give the guy a penalty right now. I'll have to watch them, and that's what you want. You want the judge to be at the table or in the area, paying attention to your game, so that they get a penalty, right? So they're pressured to play. Obviously, you don't want to be a dick about it. You don't want to be real. At the same time, you want time to be able to play your deck, and that's very important too, right? Time is split 50-50. Just because the player is playing a combo deck doesn't mean they get to deserve 80% of the time, right?
Yeah.
You get half of it, they get half of it, and you need to be able to ask players to hurry up, and you have to also be able to spot players who are intentionally trying to slow play. So as I mentioned the Rhoda thing, right? If the guy plays Rhoda and he's looking through his deck 2 or 3 times, you have to tell him, you played the Rhoda, you should know what you're getting. Please pick the card, right? Obviously not that aggressively, but like
I don't mind if it's that aggressive. I think the aggression needs to move forward. It's like
I think one of the worst things is the Goki players. They play the Rhoda card, they search the Evil Swarm Caster card or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't know the names anymore. They search the card that lets them start the combo. They do the combo, but then after they play the Rhoda, like they start shuffling their deck. I'm like, why are you shuffling? You're obviously going to go back in. Your card has a graveyard searching effect, and it's going to hit the grave no matter what, right? Like you're going to go back in, stop shuffling your deck, put it down, and just do your combo, right? And that's a huge part of like people wasting time is you have to watch for them, like especially slow shuffling, not like checking the graveyard multiple times. If a player checks their graveyard twice, that you instantly call a judge. If they're asking to see your graveyard twice, call a judge. If they ask to see how your hand, like how many times your card is hand, like I've done nothing this turn. You've been comboing for the last 3 minutes. Like it hasn't changed since the beginning of the turn. Don't ask me again. I'm calling a judge, right? Like you have to ask them. Like they have to be reasonable. They can actually see your graveyard, of course, right? If they actually see your graveyard, fan your graveyard in front of them so they don't have to ask again. So they can just quickly glance up, right? You have to take measures to increase the speed of play, and your opponent also has to. And you have to be able to find and recognize situations where your opponent is playing slowly. Like it's not because of they're intentionally playing slowly, but they're doing things that are unnecessary and which may be considered as intentionally slow playing.
Okay, that's a good point. So you guys heard it here. Oscar's giving us really, really good advice regarding how to deal with the slow playing people, and in terms of the mentality that has shifted for most of us players. A lot of us are still not used to it, but this is what it is now, and it is to speed up the games. Hopefully there are some sort of revisions that come up. Now I want to ask you, what is it like in OCG regarding in time right now? I know like most of the places in TCG, even though we're supposed to be enforcing the tier 1 rules, but most stores, because they want to keep their players competitive, they go with the tier 2 rules in time, and they do draws and everything. Sure, but what is it like in OCG land? I mean, you're right now in Asia, so tell me some of your stories regarding time.
It is a little different. We have a 3-turn rule, so it's basically the same as the old TCG, but instead of 5 turns, it's 3 turns, so we have two turns less. So if your turn player and time is called, it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And then if time is called and players are, in the middle of a game, and it's like 1-1, then sometimes it becomes a draw. If players are done in the game and they're sideboarding and they're done sideboarding and they're shuffling now and the game hasn't began, but time has been called, then they will be able to play. But a player's players will roll a dice, and then the winner of the dice roll has to go first. They don't get to choose.
Wow, they don't even get to choose.
Yeah, they don't get to choose. It's really weird. I remember when I first played a large tournament over here, I heard that, I'm like, what? What is going on? It's like Nat's Top Cut style, where I don't get to choose if I get to go first or second. But yeah, it's really weird. But I think it is a little better than the TCG side, simply because you get those turns. You can't lose in certain phases, and players are given an opportunity to plan the turns ahead and to play the game out and let it progress naturally, instead of being able to be timed out in the draw phase.
I feel like you're just getting cut off. You're like watching a YouTube video, and then all of a sudden, before someone finishes, it just gets cut off.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
Where's the closure? There's no closure to the game.
You feel like you've been cheated out of the game. It's like you fly all the way to the event. You're going to have fun, and I really feel like Konami has to take this into account. Is that these large scale tournaments are marketing campaigns by Konami to promote the game. That's what they do. They want players to have fun in these tournaments so they continue playing the game. That is the major point of these tournaments. It's the reason why Konami does them, right? If players would buy cards and play this game without big tournaments, Konami would never do any big tournaments ever, right? But if player satisfaction is going so low, players are starting fights, they're angry, they're being frustrated at these time changes, this is not a good change for the game. Even if, it's lowering the time, which is good. The trade-off is not equivalent, right?
It's like they're trading the venue costs, right? Because if you go overtime on a venue, the venue owner will charge you more. It's probably stated in the contract there, like for every extra hour that you go in, it's probably gonna cost you like $1,000 more, $2,000 more, because you're making their staff work overtime because of your event.
Yeah, and also, if you didn't know this about these venues or these large tournaments, is you get contracts for stuff like power and electricity and water and stuff. So each of all those will be extra costs and stuff. So it is going to cost them more, but at the same time, player satisfaction, I think, is paramount to these situations. And I think the OCG actually has a really great model for TCG to follow on, is to, if you want to reduce time, then and you don't want to make any major changes like doing this kind of making players end in the phase, is just lower the amount of the turns they get. 3 turns instead of 5 turns. I think it's a very fair change. And if you want to be more extreme, then it can be 1 turn rule, right? So if your turn player, that's your last turn, and then the next player gets his turn, right? Then that's very extreme. But I feel like those are better ways to approach the goal of reducing extra time, end of match procedures, than doing this kind of thing. But ultimately, it is up to Konami, and they have to make decisions, and they'll probably make some revisions. I don't see them making no revisions at all, and I actually feel like these revisions will come after Nationals, though.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate for me, who's going to Nats. So right now, even now, because of the new time change, I have gone to more locals just to get more proficient at my decks. I don't like grinding it out. I don't like figuring it out. I've gone into time, and I've lost 3 times in time already where I have regained access or control over the board, played against spirals, broke the spiral sleeper, broke everything, dropped the board load, end turn. I took a major hit before. He's top decking. I have board load. I have all my back row ready to take him out. And then time has been called. I'm down by 1,400 life points. I lost. That sucked. Because all he did was end his turn. And then, and then that was the end of that. And then I lost to more. Even today at locals, I died to being nice. I was like, oh, we have 1 minute left in time. If I just burn out this timer right now, I just win because I'm ahead by 2,000 life points. But I'm like, you know what? But then I would be slow playing, and then now I kind of feel guilty. Yeah. And it was like, it's a friend, and I don't want. You know what? I'm gonna give him a chance. I give him a chance. He killed me.
Yeah.
He killed me by hitting me for just enough damage, and then I couldn't have a turn to actually hit him, and that was it. So like, you have to balance whether you want to be a nice guy or not. But then at competitive levels,
you did the correct thing. You did the correct thing and not slow play, which is cheating. So you did the correct thing and the honorable thing. But there's a lot of ways to look at it. And as I said before, it's a black and white situation. And some players, I'm not gonna specify who or what kind of players. They're gonna look at the situation and be like, yeah, let me just think in the main phase 2 for about 30 seconds, and then end phase, let me think on some effects that I could be playing. Right? I could use end phase Shizuku to search the shark cannon to take your monster, and then set the shark cannon again, or I could just set the widow anchor like I always do, right? Like there are some players who will take that opportunity and force themselves to give them the win with this, but it's something that should not be available or an option for players. Yeah, it not only should be frowned upon, it is frowned upon, and it is against the rules to do like intentional slow play, but these kind of gray area situations should not be available to players for them to do these kind of strategies, because it's, again, against the rules and not the intention of the game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it goes with the same thing that you said before regarding the Rhoda. If they're going to activate their stuff, they should know that they're going to activate their stuff instead of just thinking that.
Well, the only exception is if you're playing locals where players are not as versed. If you're playing YCS and it's like round 7 and you're like X1, or if you're playing nationals and it's like round 10 and you're X2, like the players sitting across from you,
they're competent.
They definitely should be proficient. And if they're not proficient, they deserve, to be penalized for it. Like, that's just it. If you're playing nationals or World Championship qualifiers for North America, and you're like X2 and you're not proficient with your deck, then I'm sorry, you deserve to be penalized.
Yeah, you don't deserve your spot, buddy. Get out of here. Get out of here. Well, I think that covers up regarding our opinions and our thoughts regarding the new time change. Hopefully there are revisions coming out. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit me up with a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV. Also, if you guys want to invest in our ability to make new content for Yu-Gi-Oh! For you guys, awesome stuff, check out the Patreon link down in the description below. Just any amount really helps out. Helps this guy, feed, I guess, on food, whatever I can eat these days. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to MST.TV if you guys want more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, more in-depth discussion like this, and maybe we'll get other guests on interview. What do you guys think about that? And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.
TV.
All right, because it's actually kind of relevant. A lot more people are actually suggesting to play it again. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.